now. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome everyone to our first guest speaker interview that we're doing here for Decent Talks. So Decent Talks is a decent talk on decentralization. We'll talk everything technology, crypto, blockchain. I'm really pleased and really happy and honored to have a really special guest here today, Glen Ringdal. He, from 1986 to 1995, was the vice president, and later became the president of the BC Lions and the Vancouver 86ers, which is known today as the Whitecaps. He continues to inspire, help, and share knowledge across different organizations. And we want to walk through different marketing techniques and where things are with crypto. But welcome, Glen. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Riley. I'm very honored to be your first guest on this series. I'm going to be watching going forward to see who else you have on and to learn and gain in my knowledge of the matters that you're talking about.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here, and we can get right into it.
Sure.
All right, awesome. So let's first start off, Glen. How you got into the sports industry, how you worked your way into the huge success that you had with the different organizations.
Well, I have to say that I got into the sports industry very much by accident. In fact, my whole career was an accident because I didn't have a plan. I know a lot of you young fellows that go to university and whatnot end up building maybe a life plan or at least a life projection of where you might like it to go. I had no such illusions. I grew up in a farm out in East Delta, and of course, I had to get some kind of a job to earn a little bit of money. So I worked in a restaurant for a few years, a friend of mine owned, and that was a good excuse to party a little hardier than I should at the age of 19 or so. And so at one point, my father said, well, I think it's time you headed out on your own. So I went to Prince George because my brother lived there and he gave me a place to hang my hat. And I just needed to find a job. I didn't really care what I did. I just wanted to get a job and start planting my feet. And so I literally walked from door to door in Prince George in the middle of winter and said, do you need anybody? Are you looking for anything? And the only one thing I had in my mind that I sort of wanted to do was I liked the idea of being a radio news reporter. So I went to the local radio station, and they were very nice, but the guy that I had to talk to was away, and they said he won't be back for a couple of weeks, so you have to wait and see him. So I continued to plod from door to door, and my brother said, well, you always like writing. Why don't you go and talk to the newspaper? Oh, okay. So I went to the newspaper and said I was looking for a job. Well, what do you want to do? Well, whatever. I don't know. And a reporter? Yeah, that's what I want to be, a reporter. So next thing you know, I got hired by them to work in what's called the morgue. And that's the library of a newspaper, and where they have everything that they've ever done and all the pictures and whatnot. The editor pointed me toward a large box full of pictures, mostly of people. And he said, I want you to write down on the back of each of them the date and who this person is. Well, I said, I don't know who anybody is. So there was the mayor and the former mayor and the judge and whatever and whatnot. Well, he said, well, figure it out. So I figured it out. And by the time I finished filing that box, I virtually knew everybody in town worth knowing. And so that was kind of an interesting start. So that gave me then some jobs to things to write on. I became the farm editor because I grew up on a farm. I became the teen editor because I was the closest they had to a teenager. And so I started writing. Well, I found out that I was actually a pretty good writer. I was good at assembling large quantities of information about a subject and boiling it down into a readable piece. And that was a good thing. And so I got moved around. I was sports editor when I left the newspaper in Prince George. And I got a job in Vancouver working on a small newspaper. Um, and that was interesting, but it introduced me to a whole new dynamic of living in a big city and doing that. Um, but eventually, a guy that used to come and try to peddle stories to me, he was actually they called him a PR man, public relations guy. And he was actually the first freelance public relations consultant in the city of Vancouver, starting in
Oh,
the
wow.
early 50s. And so anyway, he said, I'd like you to come and work with me. So I said, well, boy, that's interesting. Okay. So I did that. So that made me a public relations man. And so eventually he had to leave the business because he was ill. And so I ran the company for several years. And then he got to the point where his doctor told him he had to even get rid of the whole thing altogether because it was too much mental stress on him. And so I had the choice of either buying him out, and I didn't see the point of that. I was the only guy doing any work there, so I didn't want that. Or go get another job, or maybe do nothing for a little while. So I actually semi-retired, if you will, when I was 29 years old. And as a result of that, an old friend of mine who was a partner in a fairly big ad agency asked me to come and do some jobs for them, and that was good, and I enjoyed that. It got me traveling with the Royal Hudson Steam Train. I don't know if you remember that. So part of the PGE Railroad, and they were taking this train and a bunch of artifacts and illustrations of British Columbia right across Canada and down to California and throughout North America. And I got to travel with that and be the PR man for that project. And it gave me some really good experience. So I really enjoyed that. So anyway, then one day he came to me and he said, well, we're going to hire a permanent person at our agency in the PR thing. We're giving you first crack at it. If you don't take it, I'll hire somebody else, and then you won't get these nice cushy little jobs of traveling around the country. So I said, okay, I'll take the job. So the day I started, the bosses, Steve Verlack and Red Robinson was a very famous guy in Vancouver in those days because he had been the first big rock and roll disc jockey in Vancouver. He was one of the top 3 in all of North America, very well known.
Oh, wow.
And Verlack was more of an advertising agency guy. So I went to work there. They weren't there, and they said, "Oh, they're pitching the BC Lions as an account for their advertising." And when they got back, I was there, and Red said, "Oh boy, I think we're going to get it." Neither one of them were really good sports fans, but anyway, sure enough, they did get it. And so they said, "Okay, Glenn, you're working on that BC Lions account." So I knew nothing about sport. But the fellow who was the marketing manager at the Lions at the time turned out to be a lifelong friend. He is still today. So between the two of us, we figured things out, and we ended up having a wonderful time building up the BC Lions at the time. It was publicly owned. So we had a big board of directors of some really, really good guys, business people from Vancouver. Bob Ackles was the general manager at the time. And during that period, BC Place Stadium was built. And so we had to move our fans from Empire Stadium, where it had been since 1954, into the new building. Well, that was a big to-do, and it really meant we had to have a lot of communication with our fans and our season ticket holders. So that gave me a whole bunch of different experience that I hadn't had before of dealing with people some of whom were not very happy about what was happening to them. Others were very excited. But anyway, we did that, and we had a wonderful time. We'd go to Grey Cup games across the country, big events. Our fan base was very large at the time. We were getting crowds in BC Place Stadium of up to 55,000.
That's amazing.
I don't see stuff like that anymore. It was really a great time. And so while we were having such great success, the Vancouver Canucks, who had been in business since 1971, were on very hard times. Things were not going well at all. And so the owner was a fellow named Arthur Griffiths. His dad and mom were really the owners, but they made him the president, and he ran the club. And he said, we need some of that success they're having over at the BC Lions. And so somebody made the suggestion, well, you should hire Ringdal. He seems to be a little spark plug in that thing. So
yeah,
he called me up one day and said he would. And I thought, this is fantastic. I just said to my wife at the time, I was tired of working at the agency with all these different clients. I'd like to just focus on one thing and one bottom line. Well, boom, it falls into my pocket. You talk about accidental. And so he hired me. And the place was a mess. Without question, it was a mess. The whole sales and marketing side was not functional. And it wasn't, I don't blame the guy who had that job. I blame the whole organization, because they just didn't have a structure that worked well from a marketing perspective.
Right.
So anyway, I was hired as the heck was my title? Something director of communications and promotions or something. But I was sticking my nose into all of the marketing parts at the time. And then lo and behold, the guy who was the marketing director, he decided to leave to go off on another venture. So Arthur said, well, Glenn, you're already stuck your nose in there. Why don't you become the marketing guy too? So, okay, I'll do that. So under marketing, of course, came the PR man and the PR division and all that kind of stuff. But whilst that was going on, Arthur was busy in the background trying to really solve the problem. And that was that we needed a really significant hockey boss. And he went out and he found Pat Quinn, who was working in Los Angeles at the time. And he made a deal to hire him and to bring him to Vancouver as the president, general manager, and head coach of the team. And anyway, there was a big to-do about it. Pat had accepted this offer while he was still working for another club. So the league said, that's illegal. You can't do that. So Pat was suspended from the league. He couldn't work in it. He couldn't do anything. But and it was called Quingate, because we had been through Watergate. I don't know if you even know what that is. Watergate was what brought down President Nixon.
Yeah.
Anyway, they called it Quingate. And that was a huge deal. So all of us that were involved got quite well known in town. And so anyway, the good things happened. It got solved, and Pat came on, and he also knew that the whole place was quite dysfunctional. So his intention was to basically get rid of all the people that ran the hockey department and the business side. I'm going to start over, clean. So anyway, he didn't know a lot of things. So he said to Arthur, who can tell me what's going on over there? And he said, well, talk to Glen. So I went and talked to him. He couldn't come to the rink, so I had to go to his hotel room and talk to him there. I told him everything. Well, the net result of that was he and I got along well. He liked me. And so he cleaned everybody else out except me. And so I was the only vice president who got to stay.
Wow. So complete restructure then, the whole organization. Yeah.
That's exactly right. He restructured the whole thing. And he gave people like us a lot of autonomy. We ended up running the place virtually all the time that Pat was there, and I was there, with a thing we called management council. And it was, Pat was there as the boss, but when we had these meetings, we were all equals. We all got votes, and we made the decisions. If it was came down to somebody's got to make the final decision, it would be Pat. But we all got our say, and so I was the guy in charge of raising the money, selling stuff to generate revenue. Brian Burke was in charge of the hockey department, and so their job is to spend the money, buy the players, do all that kind of stuff. And then we had an accountant, Carlos, and his job was to keep tabs of the money coming in, the money going out. Good part of business. Yeah. And so between the four of us, we ran the whole joint. And Arthur would come and sit in sometimes he wouldn't. And doggone if we didn't have some really good success. We ran some ticketing campaigns, and I like to simplify things, and I'll give myself credit for this. I said, what we need to do is first give our fans, our potential fans, hope. And we did with the hiring of Pat. That gave them hope. Pat was known quantity. He actually played on the original Canucks team in the National Hockey League in 1970, Vancouver. And then the second thing you got to give them is expectation.
Right.
I could do a whole nother dissertation on expectations, but in the end, things are successful or not successful based on your expectations.
Right. Okay.
If you think something is going to be a certain amount of money or a certain quality or whatever, if it's more or less than that, that's how that affects your reaction to it, because your expectations are either met or not met. And so that's what we use as our guide for what we were doing.
So goal setting then, right? Just to throw in, like, goal setting was really important.
That's a very good way of putting it. Yes. Anyway, needless to say, we had great success. We went from averaging just over 6,000 people a game in a 16,000 seat arena to 27 sellouts in 2 years.
Wow.
And that was a spectacular growth, and needless to say, the money was rolling in. So Arthur was happier, his dad was happier, and whatnot. But then the only problem we had was that we had a terrible landlord called the P&E, because we were in the old Coliseum, and the P&E board of directors were ill-motivated, is a nice word I'll use. But anyway, they wouldn't talk turkey with us, and while they were making millions of dollars off us, we were still losing money. And everybody was getting tired of it. And so the decision was made, and it was really made by Arthur, that what we needed to do, because his father said, either this thing is going to get solved and it's going to be a success, or we're going to sell the team or move away or whatever. No, Arthur said, I don't want to do that. I want to take the third option, and that is build our own arena and be in charge of our own destiny.
Oh, wow.
And so that decision was made, and so that was a big deal. What we came up with is we're going to have to significantly increase season ticket prices so we could generate the revenue that would start to be able to, for us to be able to go to a bank and say, loan us $100 million because we want to build a new arena. And anyway, that's the direction we took, and it all worked out, and we ended up getting the building built, and then good things happened from there. But Mr. Griffiths made the decision to bring in another partner, and that partner gradually wanted more and more and more, and in the end, the Griffiths family left altogether, and the building was owned by other people and the team. And that was the time when they also brought in the Grizzlies as a team.
Oh, basketball team.
Yeah. Basketball team, the Grizzlies. And that was an Arthur project. But as you know, even though they were successful in the community, it didn't work, and eventually that team was sold off, and new owners for the rink and the hockey team. So it was time for Glen to leave. So Glen,
Right.
well, actually, I was replaced by a guy who was, quite frankly, way better than I was at that kind of stuff. He's currently the president of the Seattle Kraken.
Oh, the new hockey team in Seattle,
Team.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going actually to watch them play here on Monday night. But anyway, that was a good development. So that was all good, and so I said, okay, good. I'm done with sports. I'm going to go do something else. And so we went off with a friend of mine who owns Buick, the car company. Maury Keith, he was a good friend of mine throughout that period. And he said that we'll start some new businesses. So we started selling satellite telephones. That was kind of cool. Anyway, no more than got started when the BC Lions by this time had fallen into very bad disrepair.
Right.
Been through a couple of bad ownerships, and things were not good at all. And so they were about to fold. Well, David Braley, who is a fellow who lived in Hamilton, Ontario, used to own the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but he's a huge business person. He owned a couple of companies that built car parts, and he made a lot of money, had a lot of money. Anyway, he just loved the CFL. And he said, if the BC Lions go down, the whole CFL will go down. He said, I don't want to see that happen. So I will fund the resurgence of the BC Lions if you guys, and he talked to some people who had been involved from the board and whatnot, if you guys can find somebody to run the business side and somebody to run the football side, I'll fund it. So anyway, my friend Maury, who was one of those guys, he said, Glen, I think you better go and run the BC Lions. So anyway, so I did, and we were able to get Adam Rita as our head coach, and he built up the football side, and I helped build up the business side, and we had some pretty doggone good success again. We started bringing it back, and that was once that was done, it was time for me to leave. I'd said when Mr. Braley came, I said, I'll give this 3 years, and then I'm going off to do something else. Because I'm not really a sports guy. Tell you the truth. I really am not. I was never a sports fan. I am a big fan of sports and all that it can do, and what we see, what's happening with the Olympics right now, and what it does to Canadian nationalism and stuff like that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And what it does to encouraging young people to get involved in sports and be healthier is all a great thing. So I'm a big fan of sports. I just wasn't a sports fan.
Right.
So I said I'm leaving. So I did. I had no idea what I was going to do, but lo and behold, another job. And it was the new car dealers. Maury is the biggest Chevy dealer in Canada, and he was a member of the board of the New Car Dealers Association. And lo and behold, they were looking for a new president. And so I heard about this, and I asked him about it. And he said, "Oh yeah, you'd be perfect." So anyway, long story short, I got that job, and I held it for 8 years, which is enough for any job. But
that's pretty good. It's good. Yeah.
That was a whole new way of dealing with customers. Our customers were the car dealers of BC. There was 345 car dealers in British Columbia, and that they were my customers. And my job was to try to help them have a better life and for them to be happy with the decisions that we made as an association that represented them all. Had to spend a lot of time with government relations and different things like that. So a whole new way of dealing with customers. And so I did that for a while. And then Maury and his partner, Jim Bond, had started a development company. They built the arena in Chilliwack, and they were just about to build the Langley Event Center. And so it was actually Jim who said, Glen, why don't you come and run that business for us? So okay, sounds like fun. So it was. So we built the Langley Event Center, Then we got kicked out of there because there was a change of government, and the new mayor did everything he could to unwind all the good things that the previous mayor had done.
Oh, wow.
And one of them was the Langley Event Center. And so he totally changed the whole perspective of that. And so they kicked us out. They didn't like, because we built it under a P3, public-private partnership. And he didn't like those at all. He was much more a government central type thinker. And so they bought us out. I did get a paycheck, I will admit. And we left. So anyway, the net result was I ended up going to Chilliwack, where Maury and Jim were effectively the owners of that building and of the Chilliwack Chiefs. And they said, could you go there and run that business? So I did. So I went to Chilliwack. I was there for, good night, best part of 10 years, running that building and the team. And when we won the Canadian Championship in 2017, I said, okay, we're done. I'm an old man. I got to go rest. So I retired, and that was the end of my sports career. So right. that's my career in sports, all by chance. Didn't design any of it. It kind of came along and fell, and ostensibly challenges presented themselves. So I accepted the challenges, worked at them, and I will say I'm very happy that we had some good success. I have a Grey Cup ring. I have a Canadian Junior Hockey Championship ring. I was one goal short of having a Stanley Cup ring.
Yeah.
And built some fantastic relationships and friendships, and really enjoyed that. And it was all about the whole notion of getting other people to buy into whatever it is we were selling, and creating success. And we did have success. So that's my sports career.
I think that's amazing. And like just right from the start, when you said like you didn't have a plan and you kind of just followed your heart, right? You kind of just, as opportunities came out, you just took the challenge. And
you got to keep it simple. I think one of the things that people do very often in business and in jobs even is make it a lot more complicated than it is.
Right.
You got to look at things and say, what am I really trying to accomplish here? Well, it's not hard with a sports team. You want to have a team that wins something, because again, fans, when you talk about sports teams, they have hope and they have expectations, and so you try to manage those two. And if you do it correctly and hit the numbers on, things will work out. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. I will say a thing like the BC Hockey League, where the Chilliwack Chiefs are in, and
yeah,
that it's almost a no-go. But the people that are involved as the investors in those businesses are there because they know the value of sports to the young people that are involved, into the community in which they operate, and that's a whole different thing. So invariably they're going to lose money. They're happy to lose that money because they know that it's doing some good, and so that what they're buying is good into their communities. And I applaud those people. I think it's wonderful that they do that, and as a result, a lot of young people, mostly young men in the earlier days, but now it's getting to more and more young ladies, are getting opportunities, not only to play sports, but to get educations as a result of scholarships and things. And so it's a very good thing in community building, and I was glad to be a part of it.
That's a great, community building for sure. That's really awesome to be a part of. And I love how you broke down things really simple, like hope and expectation, right?
Right.
And just by using that and kind of tie in, what were some marketing techniques that were really effective back then that helped like use those two things to get people?
We in cases of most of them, the mechanisms of telling our story, and that's the thing you have to do, is you have to tell the story. If you want people to buy in or get involved or support you in some way, you have to tell them the story of why. Why should I care? So either it's because you think something good is going to come out of it, or you're going to have a good time, or there's something that's beneficial to you, the guy who's going to lay out his $15 or $1,500, whatever the case may be. What's he going to get in exchange for that? So you have to understand that what will motivate somebody to say, yes, I'll give you my 15 or my 1,500. Here's what I'm expecting in return. Now, expectations realized is a big part of the continuation of that giving. If you never win, or if you let them down from their expectations in some other way, chances are you won't continue.
Right.
And so you have to do that, and it's the same with any product. If you buy a certain kind of car because your dad always told you it was a great car, so that's the one you should buy, so you do, and now you have expectations it's going to be a good car, and then it turns out to be a bad car, broken down all the time, uses too much gas. You say, "What? My expectations are not being met. I'm never going to buy another one of those kind of cars." You
Right.
go buy something else, and it's the same with almost every product. And it's something we always got to think about when we're getting involved in selling something. What are people going to think of it? What are their expectations going to be? And how can we ensure that we deliver on those expectations?
Right. That's a really important part. And what were some of the ways of communicating that out to the people, like back, and how has that changed from back then to now?
It's really just, as you said, the how. Our mechanisms of information delivery were a little different than they are today.
Yeah.
But it's really about the communications. How do we communicate these notions? And in those days, newspapers, radio, television to some degree were tools that we used. And I go back and I think about the difficulty we had. We put together, I'll call it an ad. It might have been a story, but call it an ad in a newspaper that had a picture in it. Well, the job of getting a picture into the newspaper was a huge thing. We'd have to get the picture. We take it to some guy. We get an engraving. An engraving goes to a printer. A printer goes. It's about a 4-step project to get a picture in the newspaper of the thing you're trying to sell, or say the thing you're trying to sell. The part of the picture part of the story that you're trying to get across.
Right.
And then you have to get all of the information and supply it. It was a huge project. It would cost you, let's say an ad cost you $1,000 in the Vancouver Sun. It'll probably cost you another $1,000 just to get that mechanism completed so that thing would appear in the paper.
Wow.
Well, today we just create something on our computer, put it on our website, or send it out in an email, and it costs us almost nothing.
Exactly.
So our communication is not only more direct. By the way, now our pictures can move too. In the newspaper, they couldn't move. They were just a picture.
This is one picture, yeah.
Yeah. No, you could have something on television, but nobody could afford that. It was very expensive.
Is it still expensive today, or is it changed?
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's very expensive. Well, what did it cost to have a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl?
That was in the millions, I think, right?
$7 million.
$7 million. Okay, yeah.
$7 million. Now,
wow.
You might say, well, that's a lot of money. Well, it is a lot of money, but maybe it might be cost effective.
Yeah.
Because if you're reaching the number of people that they reach on a Super Bowl ad, and your ad is effective, and it causes people to go out and buy your bottle of beer or your car or your telephone or whatever it is you're selling, and now 2 million people go out and buy that thing, and you made $3 for each sale. Well, 3 times whatever the heck that is. Anyway, it doesn't take long before you can recover that money, right? Like that. So there's a place for different forms of advertising, depending on what you're trying to get people to do. If you're just telling a story and you can't see a cash transaction return, it's a little different than when you advertise this item. I'll sell you this item. Where's my camera? There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. There. I'll sell you this item for $3. It cost me $1. I'm going to sell it to you for $3.
Right.
Well, your ad's going to cost you $100. So that means I got to sell at least 35 of these before I'm ahead of the game. Right. So that's all I do. Make sure, if I can do that, then I made the deal. So you just do that calculation, that evaluation. What does that mechanism do? So we spent a lot of time on public relations in those days. I got to go back to something. When I was moving from the PR business, I guess I was in the PR business. Can't remember exactly when I did this. But I went to UBC and took marketing. Okay. And we had a very good instructor. And one thing he embedded in our minds is there are 3 functions in marketing. Advertising, that's when you tell everybody how wonderful your item is. Public relations, that's when somebody else says how wonderful your product is. And then personal selling, that is when you do the transaction, create the transaction, person to person. And those things are still common today. Those are still the same functions of marketing. So you have to figure out where you're going to put your assets. Are you going to hire the best salesman, a guy who's got the gift of the gab and he knows how to close the sale? Or you're going to do a spectacular ad and put it on the Super Bowl game.
Exactly.
Or are you going to get other people talking about your product? And so if I'm blabbering on here all the time about how wonderful this vodka is, and my wife likes vodka, she's likely to go out and buy it and fulfill that marketing project that way. So it's all of the same things, just a little bit different mediums now. Now we do personal selling it still in stores and whatnot, but we sell so much of our stuff secondhand, like through our internet or through our websites. Direct mail. Direct mail. When I mean electronic mail.
Right. Okay.
We don't do so much direct mail. Oh, when I was younger in the day, one of the functions that we used a lot was direct mail. That's stuff that came through the mailbox.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Send it to you, and there'd be maybe an order form or whatever in there. So the whole process hasn't changed very much. It's just the delivery methods have changed. Right. Okay. So it's moving along, and so you just respond to that. And when a new delivery method comes along, here's an idea. Use it. Don't keep doing what was in the past, was inefficient, or not as effective. Use the new ones. Be open to it, and I think by and large people are doing that.
I think that's great.
In the end, all you're trying to do is create a sale. This, as my friend in the car business says, nothing happens till somebody sells a car. They don't sell parts. They don't sell repairs. They don't sell service. They don't sell warranties. None of the other profit centers of a car dealership happen until somebody sells a car.
Right.
Okay. So you got to know what is the basis of our interest in business generation. In the case of the car business, it's selling the car. So the first thing that they have to do is sell the car. Now, one of the greatest things about the change in technology is how we reach people. Yeah. It used to be, here's a good example. Last night, my wife was looking for a lamp for her mother, actually. One of these kind of the magnifying glass and the light for her knitting or her needlework.
Oh, okay.
She wants to be able to see it better and be well lit and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, where do you get one of those? Well, if internet and electronic communications it wasn't around, we'd have to get in a store and drive around. You'd have to go to Walmart and then to I don't even know the name of the stores, but you go from store to store. Have you got one of these? No, we used to have them, but we don't carry them. Yeah. Oh no, we're sold out. You know, so you could drive around for 2 days trying to find this stinking lamp.
Very time consuming.
Yeah. So she goes on her on her computer. Within 10 minutes, she knows who's got one, what the price is, and do they have one in stock. And if you want, order it, and they'll deliver it. So it's just a change. It's so much more effective than the way it used to be. Now, some people still enjoy going physically shopping and whatnot. That's recreation. That's not transactional. That's recreation. And so we shouldn't get caught up in that it's a whole new world. It's just a different mechanism by which we accomplish exactly the same goal we always want to. The whole basic functions of advertising, public relations, personal selling are still the same. All that's changed is the mechanism of how we do them.
Right, like the mechanism's changing, and also I guess it makes it more convenient, right? I guess we have these new ways through technology. Like you can find something within 10 minutes. As you say, it could have took 2 days if you went to the store, right?
One of the benefits of that is it frees up your time.
Right.
I'd like have to spend all bloody day driving around trying to look for that lamp that your mother-in-law wants, as opposed to 10 minutes on the internet.
Right. That's a good point. And you also brought up too, like how as new methods come in, like you should take advantage of it, right? Companies should take advantage of it. But also it could be risky though, right? Like when there's new methods, like it could be risky at first when these new technological, like new delivery methods come out, right? Like I guess Jeff Bezos is a good example when he started Amazon. Like when he sold his books, he was one of the first to do it. Yeah. But he saw it, I guess. He saw the method of delivery and he took advantage of that moment. I guess as technology evolves, there's just going to be new methods, right? And new ways that.
Well, yeah. Well, things reveal themselves to you. Like Jeff Bezos is a perfect example. All he wanted to do was sell books. That was as far as his thinking went.
Right.
And he had this new method. Oh, this is great. I could sell my books that way. And then it dawned on him, holy cow, I can sell other stuff.
Exactly.
and then boom, it lit. And everybody else was still wondering if this is going to work.
Yeah.
But no, I think people like to go to a bookstore and browse around. And no, they don't. If they do, they can do that. But that isn't what most people want to do. So he found out. So the truths reveal themselves to us. And so I was listening this morning to a guy named Brian Belsky. He's the chief investment strategist for the Bank of Montreal for North America. Yeah? And one of the things that he said he has learned and taken to heart is listening and learning is the road to wisdom. listening and learning. Well, isn't that the truth? It's actually why we go to school.
Yeah, listen, learn, yeah.
But you got to pay attention.
Right.
Listen to it. Maybe you should discard it, but maybe you should learn from it. And if you learn from it, maybe it'll affect how you act, how you react.
Right.
And so I thought that was a very wise thing that he said. He just said it during his talk this morning. And I thought that's fantastic. That's exactly what we need to do more. He said, I'll tell you where I learned that. He said, early in my career, I got to meet Warren Buffett. And it was Warren Buffett who said that to him. Listen and learn. And so we all need to do that, probably a little bit more than talk. I see I'm quite famous for talking way too much. I love to talk. You can probably tell. But, it's way more important to listen. Somebody said that's why God gave you 2 ears and only one mouth.
Right. And then part of listening, probably reflecting too, right? As you listen, maybe reflect, and that's how you learn, like through the learning process, right?
Yeah. And think, how does that apply to me?
Right.
Sometimes it's interesting just to hear people talk about something, but how does it apply to me? And you start looking at your life or what you're trying to accomplish and say, gee, I can learn something from that.
Right. Yeah. It's just touching back on, new fields of technology that's happening. And, as Jeff Bezos, he started the book business when the internet started launching and how he delivered things through there. And now we got this new space of, cryptocurrencies, blockchain is a new thing. There's still uncertainty, there's regulations not really clear yet. But I don't know, how did you first hear about crypto and blockchain technology? And what are your thoughts?
I don't know where I heard of it. It's just kind of seeped into our consciousness, this whole word of cryptocurrency. I've learned more talking to you about it than anywhere else. And all I've learned so far is that it just makes so much sense when you look at it in the big picture. The idea of having electronic, which we have now in everything else we do, currencies that are transportable around the world. You can use the same cryptocurrency in Tehran as you can in Chilliwack. Holy cow, what a difference. I don't have to go to the bank exchange thing at the airport and turn my dollars in for Tehran. I don't know what they use for money. Anyway, that's a whole thing. There's a whole business. I'll tell you a business not to go into. Currency exchange. Don't buy a currency exchange company. You're probably going to be out of business in a few years.
Right.
But that's what you look at. Like the guy said this morning, he said, if you don't have enough money or the interest or the whatnot or the gambling sense to invest in a car manufacturing company, maybe you should invest in something that goes into the car, like the steering mechanism or the safety mechanism, a piece of it. Because what has brought the car industry to its knees, the new car industry, it's the fact that they can't get these little chips, right? It's
right.
Computer chips that make all the mechanisms work. Well, the guy who controls that part of it is literally controlling the whole automotive industry. So don't buy the whole cow if all you want is a hamburger.
Right.
Or all you need is a hamburger. You just wanted a meal. You don't have to buy a whole cow. Just buy the hamburger.
Right. So I guess cryptocurrency, in a way, like to tie to that, like crypto could help the traditional system with helping these little pieces, right? Like crypto and blockchain technology can help integrate and solve some problems that we have already with the banking and or it could be just of how information's exchanged or values exchanged through the internet.
Value, it's that value exchange.
Yeah.
And all I know about it, you asked me what I know about it. All I know about it is it makes so much sense that I'm absolutely convinced it's going to be transformational in our value exchange processes. It's going to be like cars replacing horses.
Right.
And don't worry, there were plenty of people who said, "Oh no, don't go! Oh no, people are going to kill themselves. It's so expensive. You can't do that. No, just keep my horse." No, the car was obviously the right idea. No, they made a bad choice. It actually came down to a hard choice between gasoline engines or electric engines at the beginning of the car manufacturing industry.
Right.
Early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And the choice was made. They actually talked about it. And they decided that the best way is to go with the gas because it was cheaper. It was cheaper to have gas combustion engines than it was to have electric engines.
Wow.
That's still, to some degree, the same today.
Yeah.
It turns out, though, that gas has other problems. So don't worry. Electric will have its own other problems. But anyway, that's why you make those decisions, and you got to think it through.
Yeah, and then just time. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
To me, and I might be a little simplistic here, but to me, cryptocurrency is simply a trading instrument. People talk about investing in crypto. Do you invest in dollars?
You can hold currency.
I know you can hold it. That's not investing. That's holding.
Right.
It's a trading instrument. So if I have a whole bunch of dollars or I have a whole bunch of crypto value, I have a trading instrument. So I can use that to get that car I want or that hamburger I want.
Right.
That's all it is. And so what's great about it, why it is absolutely the way things are going to go, is because of its transportability and its universality. Crypto as I said, in Tehran is the same as in Chilliwack.
Right. It's a really revolutionary peer-to-peer. That was the original design for Bitcoin and its white paper by Satoshi, the creator, whoever that is.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
But it's acting more recently as like a digital gold. Like Bitcoin's more like a digital gold where
yes,
not meant to be transferred as much, but it does serve what you say. Like
yes,
it's really transportable where you can send it around the world so easily, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like 2 centuries ago, I guess, a common currency, is certainly in the East, was salt. So how many grains would you like? So it doesn't matter what the currency is if people believe in it.
Right.
So I know we're talking about what does people in the industry need to do? Well, there's 2 things in my mind that they need to do is explain it. Remember? Right. Listening and learning is the road to wisdom. Well, I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to transport it. I don't know anything about it. I keep saying I'm too old to die young, so maybe I don't need to bother learning this. but the truth is, you have to learn what it is, what it can do, and then you can learn how to employ it. So,
yes, that's that's one of the challenges, right? It's how to communicate this out where it's not too, because I think about crypto, it can be really complicated and it can probably overwhelm people, right? When people try to explain it, I think it has to be more simple, right? How the message is delivered, right?
Okay, you're hitting on a very good point, and that's the fear of the unknown.
Okay.
a reason why a lot of people didn't buy into cars was the fear of the unknown. They didn't know what the hell they're going to do. Are they going to blow up? Are they going to are they going to break down? I don't know. I'm fearful of exchanging my good, reliable horse for this noisy, smelly thing, whatnot. So if I'm fearful of it, I'm probably not going to go near it.
Right.
So I think the most important things that the crypto industry should do, because I do think it's absolutely the right thing. It is the car against the horse, is to start explaining it more.
Yeah.
I think I told you one time in one of our chats before that, I think you're pretty good at explaining stuff. And so maybe a business for you could be as the explainer, the guy who tells people what crypto is, what it does, what it doesn't do, why they should have confidence in it, why they shouldn't be afraid of it, or some of the pitfalls. Because don't forget, anything that has any value, there's going to be crooks around it. Snake oil salesmen. They'll be trying to sell you all kinds of fraudulent elements around anything. It doesn't matter what it is. So they'll be there. So we need to know it and understand it. And then after that, you have to have confidence. Remember, going back to my sports analogy, I said the two things you had to build in your potential customer is hope and expectation. So if you explain this cryptocurrency as a currency that is transportable, you don't have to have a wallet. You don't. Somebody can't steal it out of your pocket.
Yeah.
All these kind of things. So you explain all that and say, so they should be able to have the hope that this is something that could be very good for them. And then they start to build the expectations out of it. And I think as an industry, the industry might be wise to put some thought to this, of how we could work together.
Right.
Whether it's Ethereum or Bitcoin or Hungamonga, I don't care what kind it is, that people should understand the basics. The basics of a Dodge or a Subaru or a Cadillac are all the same.
Right.
The basics of what they do, what they can do, what they won't do, that kind of stuff.
Just the industry, like what it is. Like it's a car. This is cryptocurrency. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So I can get in any car and drive it on any road. Yeah. So I can take any cryptocurrency and use it to exchange for goods in any country, whatever. I don't even know if those are the rules. Whatever the parameters of the use of this instrument need to be understood. And so once they're understood, and then it's repeatable, that builds confidence. So once they have the knowledge and the confidence, they will be and the intrinsic value is there, which we know it is. Then they will become adopters.
Right.
Say, well, shoot, I'm going to use crypto. I'm not going to use American dollars or Russian rubles or even Canadian dollars. I'm going to use crypto because I can buy anything and everything that I need, using crypto. Well, we're a long way from that, I know, but that's where we're going. That's where we're going. That's where we're going to end up. So make sure that what you're doing is within the rails of that pathway to the point where we can buy anything and everything that we want or need using that. So if it's not doing that, if it's limiting, you're probably not doing the industry good service. So
And they kind of tie it to the cars. Like if you have a car that doesn't have tires or it's missing, it doesn't have an engine, you got to eliminate those cars. They're not going to, you don't want those on the road. So same for crypto.
Absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah.
If you can use crypto for anything and everything as long as you're between the age of 35 and 38. You can use anything that. Gee, I don't qualify. Nor do you, as a matter of fact. So watch for those limitations, and do what you can to eliminate them, because limitations. I guess limitations can be good, but generally speaking, they're going to be negatives to the adoption of this process. But I think it's not hard for people to quickly realize the intrinsic value of cryptocurrency over, for example, paper money or
Right.
gold.
Right.
Gold's heavy, it's stealable. It's got lots of issues. So
that's true.
So I think as an industry, there is a need, and they shouldn't all be doing it separately. They can do it on their own. Like the Bank of Montreal is its own messenger versus Toronto Dominion Bank, but their messaging is remarkably consistent.
Mm.
We sell the same stuff, same services. In the end, it all boils down to customer service, customer wants, needs, expectations, and fulfillment.
Right. And because kind of tie, like, the crypto industry should work together. And because, that's a good point, because something that's happening in the crypto industry, it's like a lot of these projects want to be number one, and they do whatever it takes to be number one. There could be a lot of scams sometimes. Like they have celebrities promote some coins and then they dump it after. So there's pump and dumps. There's a lot of scam coins sometimes. And some of these projects try to be number one in the industry. So it's not good. But what you say makes good sense for like long-term adoption and success. You want to like work together and do what's right and deliver the best message, right?
And if there's some reason why crypto A is better than crypto B, cream rises. If it's better, it'll rise to the top. It'll become the most popular.
Yeah.
So let that look after itself. You concern yourself with delivering the best, the most consistent, the most transparent, the most honest, the most beneficial to the customer, and up she goes.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to go long term. Like whoever's the most honest and delivers the best value will ultimately, win in this whole crypto space, I think. So.
I think so. All crypto is, in the big scheme of things, is another product that needs to be sold. And when I say sold, I just mean adopted. You don't have to sell me a pair of shoes for me to know that shoes are a good thing for my feet.
Right.
So anyway, but I think gradually there has to be the people that are telling the story and people that are fulfilling the expectations that people have for the money. So that's why you end up having the Canadian Bankers Association or the New Car Dealers, whatever. Keep the players in line. Here's how we should do this, and I don't say that in a constricting way. I just mean it in a leveling and understanding way. So that if you're going to get into the crypto business, say you're going to create Riley coin,
yeah,
not stopping you from doing that. You could
anyone could do it, yeah.
But then you got to get enough people to know what it is, understand it, and have confidence to use it. for it to be good. So Bitcoin is getting up there, right? A lot of people. Have you seen that funny piece? I don't know. Maybe you even sent it to me. I don't know. I said it was a woman explaining Bitcoin.
Oh, I saw that video. You sent that to me. Yeah, a few months ago. Yeah.
It's funny as heck.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't give people a whole bunch of information that they can't process. It's like, do you watch The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of those episodes. Yeah.
Okay. So when they're talking about string theory and all these stupid things that they supposedly are involved in because they're scientists and nobody understands any of it, you know.
Right.
And the trouble with a thing like crypto is that that's where it is, and people don't understand it, and so they shy away from it. So you have to keep clawing away at them till they start to understand it.
Right.
And it's best because there are many cryptos. There is Dodges and Plymouths and Fords and Chevs and all whatnot of crypto, and it makes sense that they all tell the same story in general, and then say, and my Dodge is better than all the rest because it's, I don't know what it is. There's some benefit. That's all. That's just a competitive edge everybody's looking for in a industry that has multiple players.
Right. So for the crypto industry to really achieve mass adoption, it would have to have a really simple and convenient message and way of people to access it, right? Would you say in terms of marketing?
Yeah. And I suspect it is a lot simpler than people are fearing it is. Right. I think people are very fearful and confused because they just haven't heard enough. And so you got to find a mechanism to get it out. And that's why I said to you that early on, I said this a year ago to you. Yeah. You might be the perfect kind of guy that becomes the spokesman isn't the right word, but the propagandist for cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So you're the guy that's telling people that cryptocurrency is this. Here's what it can do for you. Here's how you access it. Here are the safeguards you should be aware of, whatnot. You know, it's probably no different than a lot of things like medicines. Some people are very fearful of certain medicines. To the point where we see it, people won't take vaccines because they have fears about it. They don't have evidence; they have fears.
Right.
And fears are just as strong as evidence when it's you.
Right.
You know, if you have reason or no reason to trust something, you won't. So when you're talking, in this case, you're talking about people's wealth and their family fortune in some cases, or the money that they need to eat. They have to have confidence that they're okay.
Yeah.
And that they're not being taken advantage of, or they're not making a stupid mistake. And when you hear stories about the wild fluctuations in the value of Bitcoin, $50,000 one day, $800 the next. It's not that bad, but it's pretty dramatic. Scares the hell out of me. Yeah, I think I'm going to put my retirement dollars into that. Not a chance. So you have to eliminate the fear factor and turn it into something that is acceptable to my. It might be risk tolerance, but more likely just to my common knowledge that there's no difference between a Bitcoin value and the dollar bill in my pocket.
And to eliminate that fear value, like what would you say like would help? Like, I guess would it be like credibility, like people like what they look to in terms of sources? Like if they start saying crypto is good, or they start talking more about it, would that help people get rid of more of their fear? Or
you need what I call industry champions. Somebody like an Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Because he has a big platform, he has an innate believability. He didn't raise these billions of dollars because he's pretty.
Right.
He was able to transmit his believability to people that had money that he wanted to get in. But you need some industry champions. There's no point in somebody who is very small in the industry to do this. But that's not to say that maybe it's a whole bunch of small voices.
Yeah.
Make a big voice. Yeah?
Right.
You have a big voice, or you can have a whole bunch of small ones, and the net result is the same. It's like a single singer in a choir. And so maybe there's a lot more work to it. Now, how do you make that happen? It's probably only going to happen because of the people who are benefiting from this change. So I think maybe what I would do if I was in charge was I'd look to who is going to benefit.
Right. The end user, like which end user, or who are the end users that are going to benefit from it, right?
Who's going to benefit from? Yes, who's going to benefit from people using crypto as opposed to paper or other monetary systems? It's no different than the people who would have gained from the advancement of the automobile in the early 1900s. Guess who one of them was?
Oh, the early 1900s?
Yeah.
I guess Ford. Or...
The oil industry.
Oil industry.
They made the gasoline that goes into it. So if I can convince you to buy a car, you're going to have to buy gas for the rest of your life.
Right.
So you find out people and industries that are going to benefit from this happening, and you talk to them about how they should be telling the story of using crypto as opposed to dollars. And it's probably a hodgepodge of stuff going on out there now, but as an industry, and I think that's the question you asked me, what should the industry do? The industry should make that kind of analysis and say who should be our spokesman, who's got the vested interest.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, if they went to Chevron to talk about the gas in your car that I'm encouraging you to buy, as opposed to Esso, I'm going to buy a Chevron. That's who told me.
Right.
So let's just say a bank, the Bank of Montreal, is going headlong into crypto. Okay? They want to be the guy. So they take on the responsibility of telling the story, and people hear it from Bank of Montreal. I didn't hear it from the CIBC. I only heard it from Bank of Montreal. So when I'm going to start using it, I'm going to use it from the Bank of Montreal.
Right.
Pure and simple. We're not very deep thinkers generally. So we're susceptible to that kind of motivational manipulation.
Right. So I guess it's all. I guess trust has a big component for all this too, as well. Like,
absolutely.
Where consumers trust, and then that ultimately helps them not be fearful when they get into something, or be more accepting. Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you build trust, you build consistency, you learn your messages, you repeat them over and over and over again to the same people, to new people, and somehow the people see the benefit to them. They see their fears allayed. They see the benefits that are accruing to them.
Yeah.
by the use of this product. It's just a product.
Right.
And they start to use it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And just to touch.
Why does a bank care? The bank cares because now it doesn't have to have all those stupid machines all over the place that take in dollars and spit out dollars.
Oh, the ATMs.
Yeah. Or it used to be tellers. They fired all the tellers.
Oh, yeah.
It fired most of the tellers.
Yeah, there's less of them now,
with inanimate machines that take in your money. I go to the bank. I don't even have to talk to anybody.
Right. Just go out to the ATM. You do everything almost there now. And even online, like mobile banking. That's a new thing too now. That's more being used, right? So.
Sure. I pay bills with the e-transfer.
Right.
I don't have to see anybody. I certainly don't have to turn it into money, into bills, put it in an envelope and mail it and hope it gets there.
Yeah.
I used to have to do that.
Yeah? Right. It's just a change of how technology is changing how we deliver and how we transact things, right?
That's all it is. And so if you try to see it in the simplest form, knowing what it is, like the car is a transportation method. That's all it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Crypto is a value exchange mechanism. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
And just to touch back on when you mentioned that UBC and a class you took, like the three different components, advertising, public relations, and personal selling. Which of those three would you say be the most important for crypto being able to deliver out their message and stuff?
Public relations.
Public relations?
Yeah. And that's where things like champions come in.
Right.
You know, if I want to get a message across about something that's good, I get a high-profile spokesman.
Mm.
People do it now all the time. That's why you see big famous actors doing ads for pills and whatever, restaurants or whatever. You know,
right?
You can. Here's a good one. Those reverse mortgages. So they got guys like. What the hell's his name? That big actor.
What's this for?
For reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages. See, old people, I know one, have a whole bunch of value in their home, but they don't have much money because they don't work anymore. They're retired. They're old.
Right.
So they want some money. So here's an idea: a reverse mortgage. Maybe that's good. Well, there's a subject that's fraught with concerns. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it, they're going to steal my house? All this kind of stuff. So what's the best way to allay those fears? Have it explained by somebody they trust.
Right.
Well, they can't go to everybody's house, so they go on TV with an actor like the guy. He was on Hawaii Five-0. No, not Hawaii Five-0. He's on Blue Bloods.
I don't know, but
Blue Bloods. The big old actor. He's
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and he actually says in there, "Trust me, I wouldn't tell you if it wasn't true." You know, that kind of stuff. Well, you bet your boots that works. Okay?
Right.
So, I think to some degree, and that's called public. I know it's in an ad, but it's still called public relations because it's somebody else telling you how good it is. You know, if you tell me that a product is really good and very good value, and if I ever need some, I should get it, I would listen to you because I have confidence and faith in you. I believe you. As opposed to some guy who I've never seen, whatnot, he comes on and says exactly the same words. I don't believe him. I have no relationship. I have no buy-in to him. So to bring a new concept like this to the fore, to the point where it is believed by sufficient number of people that will get it the traction that it needs to become common, the best way, yes, we can do it one by one over the years, or we can get, God, I wish I could remember that guy's name. Somebody who I believe and trust to tell me,
Right. I think that's a really good point. Definitely you got to have that trust in someone that who can tell you that. And then, but also there's another component too in the crypto space. We can relate to it to the cars. If there's no rules on the road, it's kind of like if the rules aren't made yet for the road, that there's no stoplights, there's no instruction how to properly drive. That's kind of what the crypto industry is kind of seeing right now. There's not enough regulation clarity yet. Do you have any comments on that? I guess relating to like maybe rules of the road and how cars, how they operate, right? Like once the rules are set, then people know what to do, and then there's less fear, less confusion of what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. What one of the best ways, of course, to get something like that adopted is consistency.
Right.
And so making it simple and making it understandable, and then having it applied on a consistent basis makes a difference in rules and laws and stuff like that. That's right. All this flip-flop on the news about people believing in vaccines, or they don't want to wear masks, or all of that kind of stuff. All has to do with who the people believed when they heard a story.
Right.
If you believe the president in the United States, that's one thing. If you believe Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's a different thing. And that's what you'll follow. Mm-hmm. And at some point, one of them will probably be proved right. But in the meantime, people get to decide who they want to believe. So keep telling the same good story over and over, and gradually people will say, well, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't believe it. I've seen nothing but constant same story, good story, honest story. So I'm going to start believing it, and I'm going to start using that product.
Right. And I guess that can be tied into maybe regulations then, once the true value and the true like honesty of what this industry can bring, like regulators can maybe see that and make laws, and then there'll be rules of the road then for the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So yeah, that was a fantastic conversation, going really in depth with all of that. And just before we close out here, just want to ask, what's your favorite book? What would you recommend?
I tell everybody my favorite book in the world is Good to Great by Jim Collins. Good to Great is a project book that was done. Jim Collins is a college professor, and he used his class as his researchers to discover why some companies in an industry rise to a way superior level of performance and success than others in the same industry. And he knew that was a case. So they set about studying that, and they found a bunch of industries. In the end, they found 11. There would have been more, but they found 11. They documented in the book, and that if the norm in the industry of all companies in that industry were here, and the good ones were here, the great ones were way up here. Like not just a little bit up, way up here.
Yeah.
What the heck would make a company be that much better than all of its competition?
Right.
There has to be some reason. So that's what the book studies. And so the researchers, as I say, were his students. And they found that there were some very consistent occurrences that caused that to happen. And suffice to say, it all focuses around people having confidence, trust, reliability, and so they'll use that product, whether it was paper or an airline, it didn't matter. The industry didn't matter at all.
Right.
If they had that kind of confidence and belief and expectation that was fulfilled, they would buy it over and over and over and over again. So I just think it's a great guide to anybody in any business, that if you want to be the best in the world, which goes back to another thing we talked about one day, and it's in that book. How do you just decide your career? Like, you're a young man, you don't know what your career is going to be yet, probably. You might be a violinist, I don't know, but you.
I want to touch on this point, because I remember first time I met you, you mentioned like this was the very first thing that you recommended, or you gave this advice to me. There's the 3 circles, right?
Yes.
How you choose your career.
Yes.
So what you're passionate about. Does it make money, and are you talented? Like, do you have the talent in what you're passionate about too, right?
Yeah. The way he put it in there was, first of all, identify your passions, things you're passionate about. Like, crazy for me, like sports, and I'm not a sports nut, but I do love marketing. So I happen to be in sports marketing. So that worked out. That was fun. But and the second thing is, what can I be the best in the world at?
Right.
And don't say, what can I be the second best in the world at? Nobody ever says that. What can I be second best in the world at? No. What can I be the best in the world at? And maybe it's not achievable, but if you watch those kids, young people in the Olympics, they're all striving to be the best in the world.
Right.
They're not just trying for the silver. They're trying for the gold. So I can be, if things all go right for me, I can win that gold medal. And that's what I want, because that's the best in the world.
Right.
The third thing, because we're talking careers, is what can I make a living at?
Right.
There's no point in being the best javelin thrower in the world, because you can't make a living at it. There's no industry or job that is for javelin throwers, where you get paid.
Right.
So that's not a career. That's a hobby. Yeah? Understand the difference between a hobby and a career.
That's a big difference to understand. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like me and singing. I love to sing, and I do it all the time. I guarantee you I couldn't make a living at it.
It is possible, though. You can say it, but it's very difficult, though, to be make a living in singing. But yeah,
for me, it's impossible.
I'm in there too as well. My singing isn't that, I do it for fun, but it's not going to go anywhere.
But the whole notion is that if you do that, and you identify that function that you could be the best in the world at, that is something that you're passionate about, then it's just fun, and you never have to work. All you have to do is accomplish.
Exactly. Like, if you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. It just
I don't think those kids that are out there at the Olympics think of what they do as work. They think of it as accomplishment.
Right.
And I think that's what, if we all did that in business and in marketing, we'd be probably a little bit further ahead, and we'd be more peace of mind. I
agree. Yeah. And just to throw into when you mentioned the book, I actually found it in my cover here. Good to great. So
good to great. Very good. Yeah.
But fantastic book, though. I went through it when you recommended it, and it's an awesome book. A lot of great lessons and a lot of good knowledge in there. So
I love it. Yes.
Everyone who's listening, it's a great book. So
yes, it is. It's a good to great book.
It's a good to great book. Oh yeah. Oh, so last question. No, before we end here, any advice do you have for marketing or relating to crypto or anything? Any advice that you have?
Well, I keep it simple. Stupid is always a good one. Most people aren't interested in hearing the long story. They want the short story, and they want it, and they need it repeated time after time. So get the story straight, make it simple, and then repeat it over and over and over.
Right. I agree. I think that's really good advice. That's Well, but thank you, Glenn, though, for joining us. That was a fantastic conversation that we had.
Thank you, Riley. It's a joy to talk to you.
Oh, no, you too. No, I really enjoy everything, our talk here and all the meetings we had before, everything. It's been awesome. So
good. Well, keep it up. You're going places.
Oh, thank you. You're all. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Decent Talk on decentralization, and we'll be back for more later. And thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you.